Everybody, I know that we have been kind of grasping at the themes for our class every time. And one thing that keeps coming up every class is the theme of kill lenses. How can I get the best shot? How can I use my kill lens and get some good images without having to make the big expense of buying a fast lens? So we're going to talk about that today. But before we do, what I want to do is I want to show a little video talking about kill lenses, okay? And then we'll expand on that afterwards, okay?
55 to 250 millimeter telephoto zoom lens.
We've gone over this before. I know most of you guys, maybe Hector, you all have kill lenses, right? Kill lenses.
So,
You don't have a fast lens yet, you're great?
no, not yet.
Laura? No fast lens yet, right? You just have a kill lens, correct?
Yeah, just all the lenses I have are kit lenses.
A kit lens is like a default lens? Like
It's
a
the
lens
one that,
came
yeah,
with a
it's,
camera?
basically it's another word for cheap lens.
Cheap.
Okay, basically it's a glass inside the lens. You know, it's basically what's given to you when you go to buy a kit, in other words, a camera and lenses, that's what they give you included with your camera, okay? Later on down the road, when you wanna get serious about your photography or you start doing commercial photography, or you wanna take some low light photography, then you do need to invest in a fast lens. Fast doesn't mean that it shoots faster, okay? It just means that it has better glass and that it's able to capture light in low light situations, such as a museum, such as a church, places where you're not allowed to use flash, okay? And it brings in more light, which allows you to have a better shutter speed to be able to shoot handheld. Most of us, when we buy a camera, when you go, for example, you go to Sam's Club or Best Buy or whatever, you buy a regular camera, most of the time it'll come included with two lenses, okay? Usually 18 to 55 will be one lens, and something like a 70 to 300 will be the second lens. Again, they're all kill lenses. What is the drawback of having a kill lens? Is that a kill lens, like the gentleman was saying in the video, it'll work fine as long as you're outdoors and plenty of light. However, when you get into challenging situations, such as low light or late in the evening where the sun starts to drop, you will start to lose light, which will cause you to start to lose shutter speed, which will cause you to maybe not be able to shoot handheld. Okay? What did I do with my... Okay, who stole my... here it is. Okay, so again, a kill lens has an aperture of 3.5 to 5.6. If you look at your lenses in the front, you'll be able to see the apertures of 3.5, 5.6. They all have that, okay? So, what that means is that if you are gonna shoot in low light situations, you're not gonna be able to open your lens any more than 3.5. And those of you who have been with me for a while know that there's a limitation to this as well. What is it?
Have to
Remember?
be at 18.
I'm sorry?
It has to be at 18. Like the
Yes. What happens is, whatever your lowest focal length is, for example, on the 18 to 55, this is millimeters, okay? This is your basic kill length, like that one and some of the other ones, okay? In order to achieve 3.5, for example, if you want to zoom in, if you want to get close and take a shot and get some bokeh, a little bit of blown out background, you can only do it at 3.5. I'm sorry, yeah. You can only do it at 18, at 3.5. The minute you zoom out, the lens becomes a 5.6, which means the widest aperture you can achieve is going to be 5.6, okay? So most of us tend to want to zoom out, right? Because you want to get closer to the action. Well, that's fine, but the minute you zoom out, your lens is now at 5.6, which in an environment, for example, like this, it's never going to work without flash or handheld. You're going to get a really low shutter speed. So some people have even gone as far as, if they want to shoot a 3.5, so that they don't subconsciously try to zoom out, they actually tape the lens down so that you don't move it. Okay. Some lenses, like for example mine, have a lock.
That has a lock,
Yeah. So if you want to shoot at 18, for example, just lock it at 18. That way, if you forget, oops, I can't zoom out, okay? And if you do it at 18, instead of to 3.5, it will stay there, as long as you stay at 18, okay? And what do? To get closer, you just get closer physically, right? You do the Mexican zoom. You get really close on your own without having to. This is why we always talk about having a prime lens, because prime lenses are only one focal length. Two lenses, right? So again, 3.5 to 5.6, a fast lens. It's considered any lens that opens up to 2.8 or wider, okay, or wider. For example, my 50 millimeter is 1.4. There's some some that are 1.2. The 85 millimeter, which is a great lens, is a 1.2, but it's also very pricey. Okay, I have a 100 millimeter prime lens. Okay, again, we talked about a prime lens being. Prime lens is one focal length. I believe I brought them in one day, right? Went over. Okay. Prime lens, one focal length. Zoom lens, something like this, 18 to 55, 17 to 300. I have, but then this is, now don't get, how can I say this? Don't get this wrong. Not all zoom lenses are kit lenses, okay? For example, I have a 70 to 200, that's 2.8. So what, it doesn't matter whether I have it at 70 or I have it at 200, if I set it at 2.8, it's gonna stay there, okay? Again, all my lenses are fast lenses, okay? The problem with the reason that usually only professional photographers have those, people who get paid for their work, is because they get paid for their work. In other words, obviously they're making money, so they're able to pay for the equipment, right? Because every kit lens that I know of, every fast lens that I know of, starts at 1800 and above. When I dropped my 24 to 70 and I had to replace it, luckily the insurance company replaced it because it cost $2,200. And that's the reason why most of us don't have fast lenses. Okay? So, again, prime lens, one focal length, kit lens, zoom lens, it's a zoom lens as well. Yes,
I see some zoom lens that are on the high end, but they're not fixed. They're like, 3.5, 5.6, or even 4 point something.
yes, that's still considered a kit lens.
Oh,
It's even worse actually, because when you have a lens that's let's say 4.0 to 5.6, that means the wider you can open it is 4.0.
No, but they're on the 200 millimeter and up.
Yeah, they can be, but the minute you zoom out, you're gonna be 5.6. Okay, some of them are even 6.3.
Yeah,
Some are even 6.3. That means that once you zoom out,
but still,
the
they're
best you can get,
expensive.
and those are great. If you're gonna be doing wildlife, for example,
Right.
outdoors, that's fine. You don't need, like me, when I'm shooting landscape, I'm shooting at f8, f11 anyway. I don't need a fast lens for that. But not only is a fast lens better because of being able to open, but it also gets a better quality image, okay? Because the glass inside is a lot better. If you take this lens for example, if I have the same lens, but same focal length, but on mine the lens is about this fat, okay? And it's because of the quality of the lens, okay? I'm getting a little bit older now, obviously, right? So I shot a party yesterday, a 100-year-old birthday party, and by the time I got done, my hands were like, now, it's heavy. It's really, really heavy. So, okay, as you can see how much fatter this lens is, and how much heavier it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Now imagine when I have the flash on it as well, and that flash is pretty thick as well.
The battery.
Yeah. So that's why 18 to 55, 24 to 7. Not that much difference in the focal length. Yet look at the size of the lens. Okay.
It's full lens.
Yeah, and that's because the quality of the glass, there's more glass inside that allows you to capture a much sharper, clearer image. Okay. Not saying you can't capture a good image with that, you just gotta make sure that you have enough light to be able to get a good shutter speed. And it's all about shutter speed when it comes to lenses. That's why they want you to get, now this lens here, it's a 2.8, regardless of whether, it's 24 to 70, correct? If I want to shoot at 2.8, if I want to get a nice bokeh shot of you, okay, it doesn't matter whether they have it set at 24 millimeters or at 70 millimeters, it's still going to shoot at 2.8 because that's the quality of the lens, okay? So that's the beauty of having a lens like this. And in Canon, you'll see them all, they have a little red stripe that tells you that that's what they call a fast lens. It's an L lens. If you look at the inside, there's a little red L, and it stands for luxury. It's a luxury lens. So, and most of my lenses, in fact, all my lenses are luxury lenses, except for my my Nifty 50, which is actually even wider. My Nifty 50 is what they call the gold standard, and this one's gonna be actually 1.4.
I could get one of those.
Yeah, these are cheaper.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. I don't understand why it's not such a popular lens, because this is a 2.8. It cost me $2,200, and this will cost you $300, and it opens up even wider. It opens up to 1.4. Yeah, so 1.4 inches. Let me have your camera. Take off your lens. So if you want to do, and it's really light too, but the quality of the images is, for example, here, I'm gonna see now, look, you had a 2.5, right? I can go, look, 3.2, 2.8, 2.5, 2.2, 2.0, 1.6, 1.4,
Where is it changing?
right here.
Oh, at the top, oh, okay.
See the
Okay.
aperture?
Yeah, yeah, I see it now.
So I put an aperture priority, and this is where you had it at 3.5. But as soon as I put the new lens on, I actually start dialing down, you'll see it dropping, look.
Yep.
So now let's say I want to get a nice shot, right? Because you're opening up so much wider, you don't need to put your ISO very high, because you don't need,
You don't need extra light.
no, because you've already got the light. So let me just see, 8320. And
Did it let you set the ISO? Because I had ISO set to on.
you had it out.
I've been cheating.
I think you have your white balance off too. Anyway, you'll see because I shot it at 2.2, you'll see that bokeh. You see that bokeh, the background is really blown out, see?
Okay,
And so the more you open it up and the closer you get to the subject, the more you're gonna blow it out,
okay.
okay? So that's why it's good to have. And this one is not that expensive. And that opens up to 2.8 throughout the thing. Actually it's only one, it's actually a prime lens. You can't even zoom in and out. Because you're shooting from the sidelines, right? You're shooting far away. Like a lot of the people that shoot like tennis, you'll see them out there with their big lenses. Those are all just one focal length, they're 300 millimeters. That's the primary sports lens. But again, it's very pricey. But that's what it's all about. So. Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
When he was taking the portrait of that girl, the first one was at 18 and the other one was at 55, but they look like similar. They're like, so he didn't step back.
I had the same question, yeah, he didn't step
Yeah.
back at all, right?
No, because it's zooming in. So they're not quite the same, because if you look at the one that's at 55, a lot less of the background is there. It's just, so you see where on the one that's 18 millimeters, he's got more background.
And it's
As he
strange
zooms
because-
in, it's only right here, it's only the body.
Yeah, and he had more background, but her face looked bigger in the 18.
Yes, I've always said in class that you do not want to shoot anybody wide, especially females. They're not gonna like you very much, okay? They're gonna look a little chubby, okay? The ideal length for portraits is between 70 and 90 millimeters, okay? Because it's wider and it's actually more true to form. You will capture an image of anybody really, male, female, or otherwise, at about 89 millimeters. That's why my 100 millimeter, prime lens, it's great for portraits. The only problem is, again, you gotta step back. Which in a way it's good because you don't wanna be up on somebody's face when you're shooting them. Okay, so it's kinda nice to be able to step back. So remember, when you're shooting people, you do not wanna shoot them anywhere like 24 or 38 or whatever. You wanna get it as far as possible. So if you have, like, for example, you just did the other one's at 70 to 300? You know the lens, the big one?
Yes,
Okay,
70,
so if you're shooting a person, shoot them anywhere, well, no problem, because you can shoot them further. Okay, some of the ones that I've done in the past, for example, like if I want to get a really good portrait, and I want to get a really good bokeh, or I want to blow out the background, what I do is I set the camera, first of all, to 2.8, which is the widest aperture that I can get, right? Number two, I will shoot that person at 200 millimeters, really far focal length, and I will get as close as possible to encompass just the body. Okay, that is a great way. So three things you want to do: open up your aperture as wide as possible, get the longer possible focal length that you can, and number three, get as close to your subject as you can. All three things combined will definitely allow you to get a good portrait, depending on what you want. Now, not everybody wants to do artsy bokeh type of portraits, right? Some people want sharp. Like when I first started out, I wanted everything sharp, right? So I used to shoot all my portraits at 2.8. I'm sorry, yeah, f8. Everything was f8, maybe even f11. Why? Because I wanted to be able to get everything in focus and everything sharp. The problem with shooting at 2.8 is that your depth of field increases, okay? That means a very small portion of your image is gonna be in focus, right? So you have to be careful when you're shooting a person that you land your focal point in the right place. What's the right place? Correct, the eye closest to you. So if I'm facing this way, you wanna make sure that that focal point lands right about here. If suddenly your focal point lands like on the shoulder behind, it's gonna look really weird. The face might look out of focus, and then you're gonna have a very sharp shoulder, okay? Unless that's what you want. You see my background's kind of blown out, right? But right here is where my focal point is. You can see the difference. I was shooting around f8, and then I went over to 2.8. So I told her to hold out her hands, and then I focus on the hands. So anything you're focusing that's in front of the person is what's gonna happen. That's gonna give a nice, kind of blows out her face, and then just does that. Scenes. Okay? Consider a landscape, and consider your horizon. One thing that I'm always looking for, one thing that I hate when it comes to photography is crooked horizons. Okay, it just looks kind of weird. So you want to make sure when you're looking through your viewfinder that you're looking at your horizon in the back that is straight. Is it straight? Yeah. Of course you can fix it in Photoshop later, but why hassle if we can just do it in camera, right? Sometimes, I mean, some pictures do look kind of cool if you're doing, you know, sideways or whatever. I have a friend who's a photographer who does a lot of that side stuff. He likes that. I mean, I don't know. Me, it drives me nuts. I want everything straight. Must be my OCD. I want everything perfectly straight, right? You want to capture candid moments, things like this. You know, just not posed. One thing, like for example, I was shooting a party yesterday, and I'm trying to capture candid pictures, right? I'm walking around the scene. This is what I like doing. People always stop and pose for you. It's like, don't do that. Don't pose. Let me just do my thing, right? Yeah, they have to stop. Stop and, no. Let me just. I want to capture stuff like this.
A real moment.
Real moment, yeah. Just to shoot groups at least f8, maybe even f11. Sometimes, like when I do a party, like yesterday, I have a lot of large groups of family members that want to shoot together, and so I have to increase my aperture to, or I should say, decrease the aperture to close it down to that f8, f11. Now, if it's just one person, then you can do whatever you want. You can just do a 2.8 if you want. So, I think the sky the sky is the best at f11. But if I'm doing landscapes, which is, you know, the mountains and the sceneries, then I go f16, okay? Then everything doesn't matter. Usually, everything will be in focus, the foreground, the background, everything will be sharp. That way you don't really have to worry about focusing, because it doesn't really matter where you hit the focus underneath, it's all gonna be focus, okay? Because everything's really sharp. That's why when I shoot in the studio, at home, in my studio, I shoot at f8. There's no reason to try to get a bokeh in the studio because you want everything to be sharp. And most of the time, when you're doing portraits anyway in the studio, you're doing for commercial work, usually for flyers or business cards or whatever, right? For studio portraits, this is what you want to capture, just right here, okay? And
How do you eliminate the shadows in the back?
well, it's the way I set up my lights. Also, sometimes I'll put a video light to hit the background. The backdrop is just nothing but paper and white paper, or actually you see the white paper or gray paper. And I meter the light to make sure that the light's perfect. And then I'm shooting her, I'm totally shooting her. Hey, Pete.
Hey, how's it going?
Good to see you, brother.
Sorry,
Glad you're back. I'm trying to get everybody back,
I
man.
ended up in the salsa class right now.
I bet. Sign here for you. Up
Yeah.
there. Yeah. So this is for example for the portraits such as, you know, for realty shots or business cards, that kind of thing. Those are really easy to do because you're gonna shoot them only one way. Usually. We're at 2.8. See? And then you can see where I'm landing my focal point. Not only is the eye closest to me the sharpest, but it's also, you can actually see the flash in there. Okay? And that's what you want to do because your depth of field is so low that if you don't land your focal point in just the right place, you're gonna miss it. And the image is gonna look weird. If suddenly you land your focal point in your hand or whatever, that's gonna come out sharp, but she'll come out of focus. Now, if you're shooting portraits at f8, then you don't really have to worry about where you land your focal point because it's all gonna be within.
Do you shoot continuous on that or single?
No, I want to shoot continuous if I'm shooting sports,
Oh, okay.
because I want to capture the action. But something like this is going to be single, one shot. You set your camera to one shot. You can, but she's not moving. There really is no point. I'm going to end up with a lot of unnecessary images. What I did is, remember the lower you set your shutter speed, the more light that comes in. So it's not all just about the aperture, it's also about the shutter speed, right? So I wanted to set it shutter speed just high enough to allow me to shoot handheld, right? So I shot my shutter speed at 70, my aperture at 2.8, and then I put my ISO on automatic mode. So the only thing they fluctuated was the ISO. And you can see by looking at the images, that they did a pretty good job. See? Everything's at 2.8, so you'll see a little bit of bokeh depending how close I am to your depth of field, okay? So this particular, and I want to try that one. We did it before in class, but you weren't with us yet, Laura. A good way to practice your depth of field is you line up several objects, right? And then you practice setting your focal point wherever you are, right? So what's going to happen is you shoot, for example, like right here, everything else will kind of drop off. Or if I shoot here, this will be sharp and everything will drop off. That's a good way to do it. So this particular case, I wanted to show that where my focal point is. And this one's very, very clear where it is.
And it automatically brought the letters in focus
Yeah.
also because it was that same
Yeah,
center?
right. It's addition, but everything else kind of dropped off. Now, if I would have shot over here or over there, it would have been the opposite. This would have been in focus and this thing would have dropped off. Okay?
And you shot that
Again,
in
you
a
gotta get really
2.8.
close, 2.8, real close, Or with your 50 millimeter, try it at you have a 1.8 probably, right?
Probably.
Yeah,
I
It's a
think so.
50, yeah.
It's a 50.
yeah, because mine's a 1.4, but I think the 1.8 is the most common.
Okay.
We covered sports photography. Today we kind of went over lenses again earlier. And then, what else you guys want to talk about? Either today or next week, or next time, I mean. All right, guys, thank you for coming, and we'll see you back here on the 14th, okay? Thanks again. Bye-bye.